Hey, what's up, guys? Once again, a great moment for Hansen. This time he played against the leader of the tournament, who's convincingly leading the Airthings 2022 tournament, a challenger for the world title this year. Nepomniachtchi, he was black. Eric Hansen completely outplayed him. He's in a fantastic second place, and 2 more rounds to go. I just hope that he's not gonna be on his ex-coach because he's about to play against Alexandra Kostyanyuk. The theory of probability is very dangerous here. She lost all her previous games, and while I'm recording this video, I'm just a little bit afraid an old phrase and saying not to be realized. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. So let's just hope that it's not going to happen. But just like I said, if he's on his coach, it might be dangerous, because I used to lose against weakest guys in the tournaments or against women in my competitions. Doesn't matter, I'm just joking. Kostyanyuk is a world champion, she's a great player, but anything can happen, of course. Then the last round he's gonna play against Kamer. But let me just show you what happened in this game, because in this tournament he beat Magnus Carlsen, he beat Duda, he beat Miodrag, and this time he completely outplayed no one else but Nepo himself. So let me just show you the game. Eric went for his favorite e4, Nepo went for c5, knight f3, e6, and played g3. That's an interesting move if you would like to avoid can opening or time out of defense. And after knight c6, bishop g2, Nepo went for knight f6. Eric plays queen e2. There are so many deviations. You can play knight c3, you can play d3, you can play even push the pawn up to e5. But he opted for the line with queen e2. Also, there are so many deviations for black as well, with early d6. So I won't go too hard with this opening stuff here. Nepo went for d5. Well, I was preparing this, but just slightly, just to check where was the novelty in this game. I realized that there were like a couple of games like this. So after castles, bishop e7, here Eric went for something new. He actually went for the move rook to e1. This is a novelty. I found like 3 games being played in the past with b3. b3 is a nice one. He just wants to go with the bishop e2, double fianchetto. At the same time, he's controlling the d4 square in the center, especially on that diagonal a1, h8. So afterwards, after bishop b2 and knight c3, white should be a little bit better. Eric went for rook e1, castles, and now opted for b3, which pretty much looks like those games that were played there. So after knight e4, he has to take, and Nepo captured by queen. He earns this tempo. White has to play knight c3 and plays rook to d8. It stops bishop b2 for the time being, and now you just have to find a good way of repositioning your pieces and completing your development. I'll be honest with you. He had a great positional understanding of this game and of this position itself, because, for example, if I had white pieces, I would think that after rook to d1, I'm admitting my opening mistake. I gotta play rook to d1 to defend this pawn in order to develop this bishop. And definitely when my opponent goes for e5, I'd say that my opponent at least equalized it, not even more. It's not like that. I actually checked these positions during while the game was played, and white is a tiny bit better all the time. So after bishop e2, bishop g4, he played another weird move, bishop f3. What I like from strategical point of view here is that after queen f3, he certainly has now he has a nice control of this diagonal, and that's why Nepomniachtchi decided to go with e4. Eric brought the queen back here, And, at some point he would just like to go with d3, so there are like, once again, x-rays against the bishop on e7. Nepo played bishop f8, and Hansen went for d3. This is a very important move of the game, because after he went for d3, he's opening up the d-file, opening up the game, and at the same time says, okay, you might have some problems with knight on f6 because of my bishop on b2 once I remove my knight from c3. But even more, after d3, e takes, rook takes d3, queen b4, rook a to d1. Take a look at this one. Absolutely healthy pawn structure. While I was talking to a friend of mine, he's an IM, he just told me Eric basically did nothing and this guy defeated himself. Well, I disagree. He's all the time tiny bit better, and he was gradually, building a better position and increased his positional advantage. So I'm a big fan of this game. It's not that I'm defending him or I'm just trying to tell that he played a perfect game, but he really outplayed Nepomniachtchi here. So after like rook takes d3, he plays rook takes d3. So look at this. Queen is kind of stranded here. Rook on a8 in the angle of the board. Bishop on f8 is around the king, but it's inactive piece. And knight on f6 could possibly be weak because of bishop on b2. Knight on c3, we're going to do something with it. Rook on d8 controls the d-file, and queen, for the time being, controls e-file, but it can always go on f3 to take control of the diagonal and maybe go after the pawn on b7. After Nepo went for rook e8, he played queen on f3. I like this move. And for sure, Hansen had much better game here. So let's just see based on what. Rook is on the d-file and it controls half of the board and the d-file. Queen on f3 goes after the pawn on b7 and does a great job, not only as an attacking piece, but also it defends the king. And you can always consider going on g2 without being afraid for the safety of your king. Well, at the same time, I can move my knight from c3 somewhere, go after the knight on f6 by the bishop on b2, or I can just, by exchanging the knight, open the 7th rank and possibly go after the f7 pawn and the king side afterwards. Nepo played h6, which is pretty much normal move. Hansen played king g2. He starts improving his pieces. He's been always good in improving his pieces and playing normal positions and maneuvering in an, let's just say, equal or just tiny bit better positions. Here, I wouldn't say he's a tiny bit better. I'd say he's a lot better. So after rook e6, he went for rook to d8, which shows his being willingness to play for a win in this important game. And he went for rook to d8. And after rook to d8, he just wants to go after the bishop on f8, as well as, just to take advantage of the king there. So what's the point here? After rook d8 happened, Nepomniachtchi went for queen b6. Nothing. He just threatened this rook. Hansen went for rook b8, threatening the pawn on b7. Nepo plays rook c6. If this is the only way to defend that pawn on b7, then something must be very wrong about this position. Anyways, after he played knight d5, I'm a big fan of this position. And this move, because he's removing the knight from f6 as a defender, taking by queen, and taking even more space. Look at this. Now you can't move this rook ever on d6 or e6 because b7 is hanging. The only thing, you can't move your bishop. So here and in this video, I just have to tell my good friend, but I won't mention his name, that he's a big patzer to say that he's been doing nothing, that this guy just, defeated himself. So, you know what? He was, gradually outplaying Nepo from the beginning till the end of the game. So after queen c7, Bishop e5, take a look at this. Bishop e5, threatening the queen, defends the bishop, gets the space, centralizing this bishop into the center of the board. Nepo played queen e7, and Eric played c4. What do you want more than this, man? So he has the queen centralized. Rook cannot move from c6. Bishop on e5 controls half of the board. Rook on b8, like pretty much tied up the defense of the king on g8 for the bishop on f8. Queen on e7 does nothing. This is just terrible. This is really, really terrible. And what happened in that game? So after like rook e6, bishop f4, b6, b7 is hanging, rook c6 again. Eric keeps on improving his game, and Nepomniachtchi played king h7, played h5, and out of desperation and without, much space, without much moves and possibilities here to make, he cannot even move the pawn from b7. He just played g5. Eric Hansen took and played bishop e5. Once again, he keeps on getting some space and create weaknesses in the black's camp. The guy played f6, brought a bishop back on f4, and now plays g4. Why? He just wants to go with queen f5. Nepo went for queen e6, came up with check, and played rook to b7. For the first time in this game, Hansen grabbed the pawn after such a nice positional game and lots of prophylactic moves. So after queen e4, he just gave him check and threatened the bishop and the king. King goes to g3, and after f5, he went for queen f5. Hansen was already up 2 pawns. I guess Nepo just wanted to try some tricks. Hansen took the 3rd pawn, and the rest of this game is probably the biggest problem of most of you, and that's realization and technique. So after bishop c3, king g4, he kept on centralizing his king, played rook to d7 not to give him any more bishop to d4, played rook to d5 threatening the pawn on c5, took the 4th pawn, so he was like at a moment 4 pawns up, played rook b5, played check, and took the pawn on h6. Being 4 pawns up on the board, Nepomniachtchi decided to throw the towel into the ring and to say, okay, this time you were better. Hansen has been having a fantastic, spectacular tournament here, and let's just see what's gonna do in the last 2 rounds. Hopefully he's going to finish in top 3. Wish you all the best luck, master, and let's just hope for more of these great games. Hope you enjoyed in this presentation, and you'll have more of this later. Thanks. Bye-bye.